You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Good morning. Hello, kids. How are you, my sweeties? And welcome to season number 3 and episode number 133 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording day is Friday, June 2nd, 2023, and it is a bright sunshine morning here at the Beaver Lodge, but temperatures are expected to soar to 28 today, bringing thunder showers all afternoon and evening long. Well, risks of thunder showers all afternoon and evening long. I hope we don't get one thunder shower that lasts like 7 or 8 hours long, because that'll be a lot of water. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. And we have a very special Friday morning Beaver Bite for you today, because we will also have another guest visiting the Beaver Lodge this morning for a conversation. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Mist V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And we might be having a special promotion for Father's Day with our friends from the Pepper Master coming up. So
cool.
Keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, kids. Before we do that, before we go any further, let's say hello to our good friend, Mr. Grizzly, and ask him how his mental health is doing today. And that's a really groovy, snazzy shirt you got on.
Well, I'll tell you how my mental health is in a sec. I'm feeling frivolous on this Friday because...
It is Le Homer. And Duff beer.
I don't wear this shirt often, but every now and then I pull it out when I'm feeling frivolous and whimsical. I got this, I think, in 1997-ish, something like that. So, yeah. I wear it on occasion when I feel whimsical, and today I'm feeling whimsical because it's a frivolous freewheeling Friday.
Yay!
It's going to be hot as can be here today. I think it's 34 is the expected high in Ottawa.
Yeah, my word!
I think it's a heat warning again. It's going to cool down next week, but I had to put the air conditioner in the other night because it was like, no way, it's like right now it's 22, but it feels like it's 27 because the humidity is at 67%. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, the humidity in the afternoon, though, at around 4:30 when it hit the peak, it was only 23%, but it felt like 35. So Yeah, and today it's like chance of showers, risk of thunderstorms at 4 p.m. At 3 p.m., 32 degrees is the high, 36. At 2 p.m., 33 degrees, feels like 37 with the humidex. So 37 degrees Celsius is body temp. So for our American friends, that would be 98.6. So yes,
Woohoo!
it gets hot in Canada's capital. It also gets really cold. I think we are the second coldest capital city on Earth after
Yes,
Ulaanbaatar. And
yes,
we
that's
we
correct.
grapple with the top spot from time to time. Like we go back and forth. Like they'll be colder than we're colder than. But we're also, I think, the only national capital on Earth that has such a um, extreme temperature
Right.
swing from one season to the next.
Yeah, and if you take the feels like from the coldest to the
Hmm.
warmest, it's like 100 degrees Celsius swing in
Oh
a
yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah,
It can be.
yeah. We'll
Yeah.
we'll go because we'll hit -40 on occasion. We did a couple of days this year. It was a very mild winter this year, extreme mild, but we
Yeah.
did have 2 days when it hit -40. And come by Canada Day, it'll be like 42 to 45 some days with the
Yeah.
humidity. So
Yeah, maybe hundreds exaggerating, about 80.
still,
It's
it's a
pretty
lot.
still.
And
That's a lot to adapt
it
to
is, it is. It's and like a couple of years ago,
your
a
body.
buddy of mine, Angel, that's his name, Angel, and not Angel, Angel. He's from, I want to say Guatemala.
Mhm.
But it could have been Nicaragua. I haven't seen him in a number of years. Anyway, his mom came to visit, and it was Canada Day, and it was a typical Canada day. It's either pissing rain or 48 degrees,
Yep,
and it was
pretty
48
much.
degrees, and I'm like, so what do you think? Do you like it? And she's like, it's too hot. I'm like, you're from Guatemala. She goes, not that hot there.
Yes.
And Angel's
Well, I
laughing,
remember
saying, no, it's too much for her. She can't handle it. I'm like, that's
yeah,
hilarious.
but it's amazing how weather affects people. I remember in 2000, I went to South Africa for the International AIDS Conference.
Right.
And the first day I got there, it was July.
Hmm.
And
It's
people,
cold.
well, right? But it was 22, 23 degrees Celsius. So here you are, the Canadian. I arrived. There's no change for me.
Hmm. But
Right?
for the locals, they're freezing.
It was 20. Well, there was the first person I encountered on the campus of the University of KwaZulu-Natal was this guy from Mali.
Oh, yeah, so it's warm.
He had a toque and a
Yeah,
blazer.
and it was cold. Yeah, yeah.
It was 27 degrees Celsius. And I'm thinking, why is this guy wearing? Oh, yeah, because it's 40 where
Yeah,
you
so
are.
this is
So it's
cold.
15
Yeah,
degrees cooler.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. It's like,
Meanwhile, I'm like in run around naked
yeah.
clothes. Wee.
Well, that's the thing. It gets like in their winter, at night it gets cold, right? And nobody
Mhm.
has insulation or central
Right.
heat, so you'll be very cold at night. But in the daytime, so when my folks were living in Botswana, they'd say it in the winter there, which is our summer here because they're southern hemisphere. Their winter, it would be like it could go down to as low as 5 degrees at night. So they'd wake
Mhm.
up in the morning and eat breakfast in the patio in the backyard because it was outside where it was warmer because the sun would
Yeah.
come up and it would warm up
Right.
right away. So they'd hit 30 degrees, but it would be quite chilly until that point.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. We have Kits joining us this morning. So good morning to you, Kit Jen. Good morning, Kit Tavi G. Good morning, Kit Elaine. Good morning, Kit Tim. Good morning, Kit Ellen. Lovely to see you. And also you, Kit Grappling. Who else have we have this morning at the Beaver Lodge? I think I may have gotten everyone. Oh, no, Kit Jillian, and Kit Jim. You guys got here early.
Yeah.
There we go. Welcome and good morning to you all. In the headlines today, before our guests arrive, we have a few things happening. Number one, minimum wage in British Columbia has increased about $1.10 an hour to 16.75. It appears that in British Columbia, the minimum wage rose 6.9% to match last year's inflation rate. I don't know if that's the case with um, all provinces that they're indexed, or if this is specific to British
Hmm.
Columbia, but that is happening. Also, Canada will become the first nation in the world to put warnings directly on cigarettes. There will be warnings printed on the cigarettes itself, such as cigarettes cause cancer and smoke harms
The
children.
actual
This
the actual dart.
on the actual dart
Okay.
itself.
Cool.
Yep. The regulation comes into effect this August, and companies will have about 1 year to adapt.
Well, I used to when I was younger. my buddy, like we were 14, 15, and he started smoking. And I remember when they talked, hey, guys, you want to start smoking? I'm like, what? You're out of your freaking mind. And they started smoking because they thought they'd look cool at 13 or 14 years of age. And I used to take his cigarettes out of his pack and take a pen or a marker and write, stop smoking, Brad, on the cigarette. This is bad for you. He used to get so mad at me. And I remember we talk about when cigarettes go up to $1, I'm quitting. No, you're not.
No, they didn't. And the last little bit of news we have, which is good news, is that in 1977, Dolly Parton, who we love, had her first #1 album with New Harvest First Gathering. Well, in 2020, she released a Christmas album, which hit #1 as well, which made it such that the Guinness Book of World Records named her the female artist with the longest span of #1 hits. And the most studio albums released by a female country singer at 65, and the most top 10 entries for a female singer on the U.S. Country Albums chart at 48.
Damn,
She
Dolly.
holds a total of 10 Guinness World Records and is the first, I believe, country artist to be nominated for an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. So there you go, darling. And she has a rock album coming out.
Yeah, and I've looked at the collaboration on that album and who she's recording with. It's going to be kick-ass, dude. Like,
who would not want to record with her?
Well, she was. You know why she came out with the rock album?
But yeah, because of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she felt she didn't deserve it.
I don't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I've never recorded rock and roll. Like, no, you belong here. She's like, I will record.
Dolly is rock and roll. She's got that spirit.
Well, yeah, she's like, I'll record a rock and roll record then. I'm like, gotta love that woman.
Go ahead. Yeah. And so those were just the little headlines, but those are just the amuse-bouches.
The teasers. The teasers.
Because today, our main course is Golden Delicious. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually very eager to see this film. I was you sent the clips and I was watching them earlier and I'm reading up on it and I'm like, this looks like a very entertaining film. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, and you'll get the blowback from people. Why do you want to watch a gay film? Because it's a human interest story that fascinates me.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is that
it's not pornography, people. Settle the fuck down.
Right. But this year we had, one of the first mainstream gay-themed rom-coms with bros.
Yes. Yeah, and it did quite well, too.
Yeah.
It got blowback from the idiots.
Yes. Yeah. And then, I mean, Billy Eichner wasn't happy that it didn't do as well in the first week as he had hoped and didn't get promoted as he had hoped. But I think overall,
I think
he may have not helped that.
Yeah, he didn't help his cause. He should have kept his mouth quiet. Just shut that. I think he
let it grow.
Yeah, I think he harmed himself a little bit in that. I understood his emotion. I totally got it.
Absolutely. He invested a lot into it.
Yeah, I got it. But it's like, you might.
Well, also the thing is that they went that far to actually make it, and then if they didn't put the promotional budget behind it after having made it,
agreed. Like I got again, I agreed with what he said. I totally got the emotion, but I thought that's gonna, the folks who are on the fence about it.
Yeah, but I can tell you because you said it sounds interesting, and as someone who has been from the community and has watched the evolution of these films over a while, there was a time where we would watch them because it was simply representation, and they weren't necessarily all that great.
Right.
No,
this is a good movie.
This is a good movie.
Well, and
this is a good movie. Is everything from the script writing, the acting, the cinematography, everything.
It's a good film. Period.
Production values are really great, and not just the story, not just the main story, but all the subplots are absolutely fantastic. Well, this is a very, very solid movie.
And to give it a sense of I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. Anybody can relate to it, right?
Yep,
me,
absolutely.
Cis, het, old white guy. I can totally relate to it because I was that age once. Did I ever struggle with my sexuality? No, but that's not really the main focus of the film. This is a love story. This is a coming of age film. This is a self-discovery film. At least that's what I get out of it. And I mean, we've all been there. We've all been that 15-year-old teenager who's just trying to figure out what our place in the world is, where we want to be. If you can't identify with that, well, you must be pushing up daisies because you must be dead.
Indeed. So our guests, because we want to bring him in, is a Master of Fine Arts in Film Production and Creative Writing from the University of British Columbia.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, there you go. His short film Lines in Waiting was selected by Telefilm Canada's Not Short on Talent at Claremont Ferrand in 2018 and screened at BFI Flair 2018. His debut feature film, Golden Delicious, is supported by Telefilm Canada's Talent to Watch program and was filmed in March 2021 at the height of the pandemic. I'm sure we'll have some questions about that. He is currently working on a second feature film with Norman Wiley. Let's please invite and welcome to the Beaver Lodge, Mr. Jason Karman. Hello, sir.
Hi, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfectly well.
Okay, great.
How are you?
Pretty good. It's early here.
I was going to say it's early for you.
The time change.
You're in Vancouver, right?
Yes. No.
No?
No, I'm in Toronto. I'm actually
okay.
I'm actually participating in the Q&A for the film tomorrow morning. So I decided to fly in here. Thank goodness I did, because I got caught up with that Air Canada.
Everything was grounded
thing.
yesterday.
Yesterday,
flight.
Yeah.
Wow, you picked the right time. and that's why we have the ability to have this wonderful man on our show this morning, because yes, normally he is in BC, and I think maybe 4 a.m. would have been a little early.
Yeah, a little early. With any consolation, I woke up at 4 a.m. today. So,
yeah. But that was the thing, right? I saw on the web that Golden Delicious was going to be screened at the Inside Out Film Festival over the course of this weekend, which is the big queer rainbow film festival in Toronto. It's the biggest one in the nation. And I saw that you were traveling down for it. And I thought, well, here's a great opportunity, because full disclosure, we got to meet in March when you were here in Kingston presenting the film.
Yeah, that was like one of the coldest days of the year that I can remember.
Yeah, it was. It was a pretty cold day that day.
And now it's like 30 degrees here, which is the opposite. So
yeah. Welcome to
Ontario. I like it hotter.
Yes. Jason, I was wondering, should we start with the trailer maybe?
Sure, yeah. I think that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put the trailer up. There we go.
Right. For the first time we get to do this.
Happy Labor Day, everyone. Can't believe we start our last year of high school tomorrow. So exciting.
The most exciting. Leopards rule.
Catch you leopards in the AM. No, my hair is messed. Can we do it again?
Yeah. Yeah, just a second. Dad, what?
Hey! I'm on the way out, but I wanted to wish you luck today.
It's your first game.
How'd you know for sure that you, wanted to go into culinary school?
Felt it in my bones.
What do your bones tell you?
He likes being the coach's assistant.
He's only doing that so he can be on the court where he wants to be.
Sorry, I didn't see you there.
It's my bad.
I'm Jake Wong. Hey, Alex, it's Chadley.
Yeah.
It is just basketball.
Just back.
My boyfriend used to call me Sexy Lexi. Ex-boyfriend, I mean.
What about the restaurant? This is your family's place.
We're family.
Your father, he dreamed big. He dreamed even bigger for you.
Hey, man, there's people talking at school and there's rumors going around.
You can still choose who you want to be.
See what you got.
Line it up. Control your nerves. Follow through with the wrist. You got it.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Who doesn't want to see that? Seriously,
That's a great, like, that's a brilliant trailer because I was enraptured with the story right from the get go, and it's like, oh, I do want to see this film because, well, it's like, look, I'm not trying to what's the word, fluff you
Blow
up.
sunshine.
Well, blow sunshine up your butt, but I mean, really, it just in the clip alone, that's a 2-minute trailer, and it you have me like I'm in, and the young, how old is the character? 16 or 17 in the film?
17 years old.
17. Yeah. So I remember being that age and that struggle with, and I would never ever go back and do that ever again for all the money in the world. I am very happy at 54. I don't want to go back in time. Because let's face it, that struggle at that age, and then for me it was difficult enough because I moved around a lot. Being a military kid, I was always the new kid everywhere I went, which is that's a struggle in and of itself. But if you add in the struggle with one's own sexuality and realizing here he has a girlfriend, but he knows that he's gay, but he's trying to struggle with it. I'm like, I can't even begin to imagine what that struggle must be like. And I mean, the stuff I went through was, just moving around a lot. And, there's being the weird kid because I was the shy, quiet, sensitive kid. I was a feminist before I knew I was a feminist, which made me weird, I guess. I was always a sports guy, played soccer, played hockey. I was always the goalie. I was always the tough kid who could take it, but I didn't, the guys would, hey, let's wrestle. I'm like, no, I don't like men touching me. I don't want to do that. So that whole sort of internal battle of, what's my place in the world? Who am I? What will I become? Where am I going? I completely get that. And it comes across in a 2-minute trailer. So I think whoever cut that trailer, brilliant, because you've got I got to see this film.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass that on to the trailer editor,
Let them know.
And let him know. I apologize if you're watching this, the trailer editor. I'm blanking out your name because it's a bit early in the morning, but I'll come back to you. I promise. So
the kids in the chat appeared, seem to like it. Go, damn, that looks good. And ooh, I'm intrigued. This looks amazing. Yeah, please check it out if you have the chance. I was wondering though, because these movies have Asian characters and they're at this particular age in their life, but it's set today.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the inspiration for this story come from for you? Or to tell the story, because I know you didn't write the screenplay.
Well, the inspiration. So the script is written by Gorman Lee, who I met in 2012, and at the time I was looking for a project to collaborate together, and both of us are Asian Canadian artists, and so what drew me to his script was his family relationships, and that was something that I could connect with. Yes, I'm the eldest child in my family, and we immigrated here from Indonesia, and so I remember the pressure to perform when I wasn't ready, and my parents opened up an Indonesian restaurant in a strip mall in Edmonton, and I remembered being 8 years old, wondering what the heck am I doing in Edmonton at minus 34 when I was in Indonesia. It was 30 degrees.
Yeah,
like, what's up, Mom and Dad?
You took us to the coldest place on earth. What were you thinking, man?
Yeah, exactly. And then I was asked to help in the kitchen in the restaurant when I was a young kid, and all I just wanted to do was watch cartoons or at least try to have fun. And so and so those kinds of interactions resonated, or it lingered upon me. And so when I read Gorman's script, I thought, wow, this is very familiar and something that I wanted to explore. And I asked him if he was willing to explore it with me, and potentially turn his lead character into a queer character. So before he was straight, and yeah, so So we made an agreement to work together, where he would be the sole writer and I would be the director, but I would be informing him about the queer experience to make sure that it's authentic and it's lived in.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it feels real, it's because it is partially based on my experiences growing up, and how social media affects us today as well as a queer adult. So
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things about the film that I found really interesting, because it is set today, and there's only so long you can keep things a secret.
Yeah, today
and things
especially.
get out.
Yeah.
And sometimes when a secret gets out, it no longer becomes yours to tell, which is something that we've been talking about a lot in New Brunswick because of Policy 713, where some people in the government want to take away the right for kids to tell their parents that they might be trans, and want the school to do that on their behalf. But when word like that, like, I remember watching Degrassi when I was a kid, and I remember like the three-way telephone calls, right? Where you would call a friend and say that you were going to talk about another friend, but that friend was on the line, and really you're talking about the second friend you called and you're trashing him or her. And I was like, this is that on steroids.
That sounds juicy, by the way, what you just described, Douglas.
Yeah, it was a thing in the 90s before we had internet, but we had three-way calling, right?
I do remember that.
Yeah, so it's like, again, right? The constants are the same. It's the variables that change. But that element, adding that element of today and how a message gets out, and when things get out of control, is also part of this story. And I was wondering if you could speak to that, because that makes this experience so much more difficult. If that was the reality when I was coming out, I might have stayed in.
Well, and the character has a cover too, because he has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
So he's got a beard.
That doesn't mean anything. Well, I think one of the added pressures of like finding yourself today is the social media element, because you're regularly confronted with all this imagery of telling you who to be and how to be, and where to be, and it can be very overwhelming and confusing at times. When you are so first of all, when you're trying to find yourself, that is a challenge. And then there's this expectation of like, oh, you have to project, you have to be somebody, right? In addition to that. And then there's also that additional layer where you're trying to navigate in the online world. People are just hungry for the next big thing. They just want to out you. They just want to find something juicy to mention so that they can elevate their status in social circles. So I can imagine how challenging it might be in a high school environment where you're just trying to figure out your own feelings, and then there's this other element that you're trying to figure out, and then on top of that, just people wanting to get the scoop on things, and social media can amplify a lot of emotions, and again, it could take casual remarks in a different direction, and suddenly you're alienated and assumed for, and judged on, and it's just very annoying, if anything. So I think that there just needs to be more empathy, and hopefully that's the takeaway that people have with my film.
Well, at the heart of it, right, it's a coming of age love story, right? I mean, that's what I get from the trailer and all the descriptions I've read about it. It's a coming of age love story and self-discovery, of course, right? So
it's a three-way love story, with the girlfriend and then the boy next door, and especially also about himself as well. But yeah, it is a love story when it comes down to it. Yeah.
Well, and then there's the whole internal struggle of his father's affair that deeply affects the character, because that kind of shatters his whole world. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that's what it would like. you know, your parents, your mom, your dad, they're married. They're these solid. They're what you look up to. They're who you want to be, right? And then you discover this secret that would be just earth shattering, like earth shattering. And I know a lot of kids go through this. I never went through. My parents are still blissfully, happily married. My dad's 82. My mom is 76. 77 this year. I had to think about that for a sec. And you know, I couldn't imagine them being apart. So, you know, if I ever was to hear something, oh, your father had an affair, I would have to go into serious therapy to deal with that. And I imagine this character is no different because his world gets shattered. So he's going through his struggle with his own identity. He's got a girlfriend that he clearly loves, but he kind of falls for the boy next door. And now he's about to be outed and his father's having an affair. Like, that's a lot of pressure for a 17-year-old boy to deal with, like a tremendous amount of pressure.
Well, not only that, but the father's having the affair and he's conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't want to hurt her.
Yeah.
But he's feeling something for someone else. So like there's this parallel story. Like, how hard can you judge your dad when you yourself are finding yourself in? It's real. This movie has levels. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's the feedback that I got from a lot of people, is that they're surprised with all the many different levels. You know, one of the things that I wanted to explore is role models in society today, or at least role models for me. I like my dad. Sorry, Dad, you're not perfect. So, but you know, I appreciate what he was trying to do, and I always saw how my mom supported him, but at the same time, how she felt trapped by him. And you know, as a kid, you want to hope for the best and believe that things are okay, but sometimes it's a struggle. And you know, for me, I was looking for great role models. My parents weren't perfect, and then I started finding great role models in film. And that's how cinema kind of inspired me to become a better person, because I was looking at I was exposed to all these films, like Henry McDonald's Beautiful Thing, for example, or John Grayson's Lilies. I don't know if you know these Canadian films, right?
Yeah, Lilies was fairly good.
Yeah, so you know, where you have these larger than life characters just you know, finding love and being happy, and you know, living happily ever after instead of perishing, you know, in some sort of tragic manner. So it was really great, and that's why I love cinema so much. And so, in circling back to role models, to family, I think we need to we need to acknowledge that some people are not perfect, and that those role models need to be able to apologize for some of the things that they've done, or at least have some conversations of not be so I guess egotistical about it. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or if I've just kind of looped around in many different circles.
We have to remember, and one of the things that we didn't get as children, and I think as adult as I can be, our parents didn't have a manual. There was no guidebook. All they had was what they grew up with, and that was what influenced how they parented. And we'll do the same when I'm not having children. I'm 55 in a couple of weeks, so I'm not about to start having children now. I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, our generation is parenting with what we knew and trying to adapt to the modern day and this whole new struggle that kids have. I mean, you know, if you were getting bullied in school, you could go home and you weren't being bullied. But now you can't escape it. Well, I mean, if you turn off your phone and that, you can, but it's like, you know, that's your connection to the world. So it's never been easy to be a teenager, ever. And I think it's more difficult today than it's ever been, because the expectations on kids today is so bloody high. It's ridiculously high. And you know, we see a lot of kids struggle and they get mixed up in you know, drugs or alcohol or just something to cope. And it's like, I understand, you know, I mean, I've never taken drugs in my life. I've never smoked cannabis because I'm allergic to it, but that's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is kids today have a lot more struggles than we had when we were their age. I mean, that's my take. I don't know what, gentlemen, what do you think? Would you agree with that? Is that, you know?
Yep, I would. There's more to know.
A lot more to know.
Yeah, there's this trend to do everything yourself, right? Self-select, and
Right.
well, you know, just like we need you know, curators, guide leaders or collaborators in life to help us, because yeah, there's just so many options to choose from. And I work as an educator, and I've been hearing how anxiety inducing it is just to make a choice, because you're suddenly judged on that. And there's this expectation that you should know everything. You should be perfect on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Right.
we didn't have that.
No, we didn't have that. We have a Kit Jim going, not easy to be human. Bullying doesn't stop after high school. It just puts on a shirt and tie.
Well, that's true.
Oh,
that is true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Jason, the three actors that play the triangle, you have Cardi Wong, who plays Jake, Chris Carson that plays Alex, and Parmis Sahat that plays Valerie. How did you find them, and once they were familiar with what the material was going to be, how did they react to that, and how did they take it on?
I started the casting process back in December 2020. So that was at the height of the pandemic, before people got vaccinated. And before that, I used to do a number of short films. I started out in documentaries, and there is I've been able to trust my instincts whenever I see people on camera, and perhaps understand what they might be exploring. So when I saw, when I first cast, I focused in on the lead character, Jake, and we saw a number of people, and it was all through Zoom. And it was about a month before I settled on Cardi Wong, who plays Jake. He had this wonderful balance between kind of male fragility and still kind of being having some sort of spunk or, you know, feistiness to him, right? So I really like that. And then once I found him, then I looked through a bunch of actors to find a love interest. And what I was looking for was I was comparing contrasts. I basically look for, when I cast, I put two people together, and then I also look to see what is not said between the two of them, you know, in terms of the imagery, right? Body language. And then I also look at acting range and directability. So I found Chris Carson to complement Cardi Wong very well. And later I found out that they knew each other, and that's why they had this natural bromance. And it you know, it worked on screen, right? So once I had that, I focused in on the girlfriend, and again did the same thing over Zoom. I never actually met them in person until close to shooting, which was in March 2021. So I spent about a month and a half of doing this over Zoom, and then and I was interpreting a lot of it through what I saw on screen, so all that experience of working in short films and watching people, documenting people through documentaries, helped me kind of be confident in what I was seeing, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So
yes, because Yeah, because that was the thing about this film that I found really interesting, is that it was the chemistry, because I really did get the feeling that Jake's character and Valerie's character really did care for each other. I really did feel he was completely torn. Their chemistry was great.
Thank you.
And I also love the subplot of pressuring to have sex for the first time, and the pressure is not coming from the male.
That's different
in this subplot, which is again just these little touches of modernity for the story. But then he meets Alex, and then you see the thing, that little clip you saw it in the trailer, like where he's like watching him doing push-ups because you got him a little bit on video, and he's wondering, and that one also seems genuine. So it's like, how do you? That's an incredible feat, because normally if you watch this movie and you get a triangle, you get the feeling that one of the relationships is right. No, you don't get that this sense, which makes the whole thing about being torn about which way to go all that much more impactful when it happens, because you see the reactions from all sides.
I
don't know how you managed to do that with these actors, but oh my word.
I want to acknowledge like the personality and input of our actress Parma Sahat, because I think she filled in a lot of the backstory of the character that could otherwise be glossed over.
Mm-hmm.
She offered that depth of not being a doormat, not being just a simple obstacle. She's someone with dreams and genuinely wanted and saw an opportunity to help someone else and elevate them, i.e. her boyfriend, to come with her, right? So I think that translated really well across. And yeah, ultimately everybody in the story, wants to do, their intention is good, regardless of how you interpret it, right? And I think that that's what makes the film much more interesting to watch, because they're not playing as an obstacle or as the bad person, right? They genuinely do think what they're doing is the right thing to do. Right.
Or just a flawed person who happens to make a bad decision, but they're not evil.
Yeah, that's right. So,
just like one of those, it's like, how did I can imagine like a couple of these characters just stopping one day. Like, we don't see this scene anywhere in the movie, but I can imagine somewhere in the backstory that someone's at home one day and they're doing something, they're cooking or something, and they just stop and like, how the heck did I get here?
I ask myself
I have these moments all the time.
Daily.
I have these moments all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I can imagine that happening, like in between scenes somewhere, that someone's like, I can imagine the father at one point sitting in his living room, after moving out, going, like, just 3 months ago, I had a wife, and how the hell did this happen? And I can imagine the young man sitting in his living room, just yesterday, I was like, how the hell did this happen? And like I could just imagine every single character there having a moment, even the daughter, like this, who's like the rock in the entire story. I can still imagine like sitting here and go like, how did I come from these people?
Yeah.
I can imagine every single one of these characters having a moment going like, how the hell did I get here now? It's just so beautifully written.
And that is because of Gorman Lee. He's a very talented wordsmith. So
yeah. Now, before, this is your first feature.
Yeah.
So before, you were doing, like you said, documentaries, and was
short
it strictly
films.
documentaries or other shorts?
It was. I started out in documentaries, and then I worked my way into short films. But yeah, I did a documentary on the world's first yo-yo champion, Harvey Lowe, who overcome his brain tumor through the love of yo-yos. So he actually experienced memory loss at the age of 89 when he had to have his brain tumor, and then he was able to re-engage a lot of his lost memory through his knowledge of the yo-yo. That dexterity kind of reignited his memory. So I had a chance to meet up with him, in his final years, and document his story. And he was a very interesting person because he chose a career in the arts in the 1930s, and that was something. And as an Asian person, that was something very bold. You know,
right?
You don't choose to become a yo-yo player as an Asian boy, but he was plucked. He was discovered, plucked from obscurity, and traveled the world because of his skill. And I thought that was very inspiring. So that was my first documentary. It's called State of Yo. You can find it online, and then I did another documentary on called Fortune Cooking, and it's about.
I like that. I like the title, Fortune Cooking.
I'm sure it's going to be on some restaurant somewhere, like Walk With Me or something like that.
Yes. Well, we all remember Walk with Yan, right? I mean, that was.
Yeah, so that was another documentary. Just I followed a Chinese chef for about a year, and he was discovered by the New York Times, and he was labeled as the greatest Chinese chef outside of China, and I was interested in the pressure of that label on someone. So I followed him for about a year and told his story. What I discovered was that I was basically at the mercy of people's egos, and there's some things that I discovered that I wanted to tell but I couldn't, and so I discovered that I was able to address the truth with fiction more. I was able to, rather than documentaries, because documentaries, you're just at the whim of people. And I respect people's privacy, and I'm an ethical person. So, I wanted to be able to address certain things without all that. And so, crafting fiction allowed me to do that. So I went into short films, and I started cutting my teeth on that. I wanted to break away from talking heads. And I did dance on screen films and dramas, and then sports action, and then here I am. So,
well, if you're ever looking for somebody to narrate your films, I'm happy to lend my voice to you.
I heard that. I mean, I picked up on that quality. You can sell me anything from coffee to lip balm.
You have if you ever hear you catch the comments too. If you're watching it later on, we have some of the kits. You have to understand. We it's the Eager Beaver Show, so we call our listeners kits, and our kits are some of our biggest boosters. And you have Kit Jim there going, a question for Jason: have you ever seen Doug on film? Do not do this, people. He's a guest.
We don't.
No, we don't do that. But no, I act as well. This is why I was always interested in their performances, but I tend to do more stage. I've never done a film or anything. But I know how hard it is to get a performance. It can be to get a performance out of someone. So I was just, as a fellow actor, I was in awe of the subtlety and the range. And when you consider that the film is done in the COVID era, and then you assume you can't assume anymore these days that people that are willing to take on gay roles are gay in their real lives. So you're sitting there, because before it was the case, because it's you're watching a gay film in the 80s, and most likely
it was a straight person
that was. No, more likely the other way around. Yeah, because they didn't want to ruin their reputation. Okay. There was a time where it was not a good thing to take on a gay role. because it would make people ask, and then you would get blackballed because he turned around and said, well, if he played a gay role or he's really gay, then nobody will believe him on screen as a leading man.
And you know what? I do remember there was a particular actor in the 80s who did a remember miniseries? Used to do 8-episode miniseries. Now that's a season of a television show on Netflix. 8 episodes.
Yes.
But there was a miniseries. I can't remember the name of the actor, and the character he played was gay, and the actor wasn't. And that kind of ended his career.
Yep.
And that was early 80s. I can't remember I can see his face. I can't think of his name right now, but his career basically ended because of that. And it's like he was playing a role.
Well, same thing happened. The movie Making Love had Harry Hamlin, someone else, and Jacqueline Smith when it came out. And the movie studio producer, when they were at the screening, turned around and says, "You made me a gay movie?" And we almost didn't hear from I don't think we heard from Harry Hamlin again until L.A. Law came.
Yeah.
I think there was like a good 7 or 8 years, but he was out in the wilderness.
True. Well, I'd like to think it changed with Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal when they did Brokeback Mountain. I mean, there was still some, of course, ignorant people who tried to destroy them over it. But Heath Ledger, I thought, responded with, "What? You have a problem with two people who are in love? This is a love story. That's what it is. Period."
Yeah, but it started to change too. There was a movie called Jeffrey at one point. I think Jeffrey had Paul Rudd and a guy named Michael Weiss, who was like a big soap opera star on Days of Our Lives at the time.
Wasn't Patrick Stewart in Jeffrey?
I believe so as well.
He played the leading character, if I'm correct, right? Jean-Luc. I mean, Patrick Stewart is well known as Jean-Luc Picard on Star Trek, right? So yeah, he was the lead character.
Is it in Jeffrey?
I mean, if you're talking about the Jeffrey that I know,
Patrick Stewart is in it. Yeah, sorry, not Michael Weiss. Steven Weber, who was on Wings.
Yes.
Sorry, Patrick Weiss was in. Paul Rudd was another movie. No, Michael Weiss and Steven Weber were in this one, and then Paul Rudd and somebody else was Tricked. Tori Spelling was in that one as well. Trick. Sorry. Yes. So yeah, it started to happen, and then people were able to keep on having careers. But yeah, there was a time where it was almost instant career death.
Well, Patrick Stewart can pretty much play any role. There's a 2014 film titled Match. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was an independent film. It was an IFC Films release. I saw it a couple of years back. It's Carla. Is it Gugino or Gugino? I never pronounce her name properly, but I love her. Matthew Lillard and Patrick Stewart. And the story revolves around Toby, a middle-aged ex-dancer now working as a ballet instructor at Juilliard School in New York City. He's asked for an interview by husband and wife team Mike and Lisa. So the thing is, Mike thinks that Patrick Stewart might be his father. So he wants his DNA to see if he's a match. Hence the title. Anyway, I highly recommend the film.
Okay.
So you talk about Patrick Stewart, and I always think of that movie because his performance in it I thought was remarkable, because his character is gay, but he has been with women, and he talks about it in depth with Carla Gugino.
Oh, okay. I've never even heard of the movie.
It's a great film. Again, it was a small independent film from 2014. It was debuted at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2014, and it was on wider release in 2015. Not a lot of people saw it. I think it's made $37,000 at the box office, but it was a small independent film. A great reviewed film. Check it out. Anyway.
Jason, I wondered, so you go from shorts, and we included a link to your State of Yo film for the chat for the kids so that people can watch it. How did you go from the jump or what made you think that it was time to move from short films to a feature? Because I know a lot of people that direct shorts would want to direct a feature at some point, whether it's a feature documentary or a feature film. But it's a bigger task. I mean, I think of me as a writer, I'm good at writing an essay or something, but I could never write a novel. I just do not have the discipline and making sure that the time and everything, there's continuity and all these things that you need to think about. So where did you feel that you were ready to take the jump from one level to the other?
Well, I gotta say, going back to school for a second time, doing my master's really helped boost my self confidence. And after I finished, I just felt ready. Uh, so yeah, like making that leap from shorts to feature is a big leap. There's if anything, it's about the management of subplots. That's what I've discovered. Like, because with a short, you only have one or two things to deal with, but with a feature length, it's 90 minutes, 120, and you have to sustain the attention of the viewer, and and so you what I discovered is like subplots basically either support or subvert the main theme, and the main action of the film, and creates a much more compelling argument for the story you're trying to make, right? Um, and so I knew that I really going back to Gorman's script. I really liked that script back in 2012, but I knew I wasn't ready at the time because I didn't have all the skills. So I continued doing shorts, and then in 2016 I got into the UBC's MFA program for creative writing and film production, and there I was able to focus in on acting. Tested some of the things that I knew out in the field, back in school, and I highly recommend any adult, especially, to go back to school, because I think life is I think learning never stops, and and if you go back to school as an adult, you really get to understand yourself in ways that you never had a chance, especially when you're young, because you weren't ready at the time. You're just being pushed through the system, right? But when you go back to school on your own terms, you'll be like, I'm ready to see if what I've learned made sense, and what can I do better, which is what my takeaway from going back to school. And at around 2019, I felt ready to take on this opportunity. And doing a first feature, you don't want to squander it. You only do it it happens once,
right?
And people judge you, sadly, on who you are and your skills, right? So
I think they judged you pretty good, because I'm going to put this graphic on the screen which shows I think you did okay on getting judged, sir. Look at this.
Wow,
this is insane.
Wow. That's a lot of
the accolades are
roles.
That's a lot of accolades. So I think you did okay. I'm gonna
I was gonna say something. I mean, I didn't do that. I appreciate you doing that, and I thank you so much. But I didn't do that to be bragging about it.
We get it.
You got to let people know.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of noise out there, and what I noticed, especially with some of my acting and filmmaker friends, they make good work, but nobody sees it. Goes straight to video, and it's on some back catalog, and so I think you do need to put some resources and effort into pushing the film out, especially if you're really proud of it, right? So so that's what I'm doing now. I'm putting that. It's been 8 months, but I'm really enjoying the process and learning a lot and getting inspired by you and new films. So
well it's funny that you mentioned
it's tough to promote yourself, right?
It's
tough to promote yourself. It's difficult because you feel weird about it, but it's what you have to do today.
Well, especially, and I'm before I doing this in my previous life, I was a communications, marketing, that kind of guy, strategic communications person. And you're right. It's kind of weird, because people who are first to assume the worst will turn all look at him bragging again. But you're right. It's not bragging. There's noise, and you got to cut through. And we're in an age now where everybody is you incorporated almost, and you have to toot your horn. And there's some of us that either come from cultures where tooting your own horn is really frowned upon, or you're just, even if you don't come from a culture in your own home or your own family, that's like, as Canadians, we're not pretty big on
It's not
too
who we are, right?
as well, so I mean, it's a weird feeling. I mean, we have to do it with the show as well. It's like, look, people saying wonderful things about us, and you'll want to watch this. If they wanted to watch it, maybe you will too. Hey,
And we feel weird about it.
It's weird. It's like, look at us, aren't we great? It is weird, but as Kit Linda says, you also have to know your worth, right? Objectively, you have to be able to turn around and says, no, I did this, and this is actually good, and you actually really truly might enjoy this, right? Without bragging. It's a fine line, but it's important these days.
Thank you so much.
You have to promote yourself. And again, like you said, Douglas, it's weird because I come from a family of just put your head down, do the good work, and people will recognize it. That was the generational thing that was taught to us.
Yeah.
That's not the case today. You put your head down and do the good work, yes, but you have to every now and then pop up and go, hey, look at the good work over here I'm doing. Yeah. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Which is, and it's an internal struggle for me because we're always promoting this, and I'm kind of still weirded out by the fact that I'm doing it. It's like, hey, check us out, please subscribe. And I'm like, when we first started to do this show 3 years ago, Douglas was like, okay, please subscribe. Here's our coffee. I'm like, I was so uncomfortable with it, but it's necessary. You have to do it. And I've made peace with it. I'm still not comfortable with it, but I've made peace with it.
Meanwhile, I have no shame and I have no pride. I'll wear
I have no shame. You know that.
The show.
I mean, come on. Do you think this guy has shame? This guy doesn't have shame. I have no shame. Come on, I'm in my 50s wearing a cherry red Speedo. I don't have any shame, but I do feel weird about promoting what I do, and I like I said, I've made peace with it. So I can understand, Jason, what you say with it's like I'm not bragging, but I am proud of the work I did, and you should be, because look at the accolades here. Holy crap!
I was wondering, Jason, what have you learned about that side of the business now that you're doing the future? Because like you are going to the festivals and you're making the efforts to go there in person. It's not every filmmaker that goes with their film to a festival. Yeah, you've been doing Q&A sessions. You're making yourself available for opportunities like this. Do you enjoy this part of it? And what is it that you've been learning about this part?
I do enjoy this part because I get to, I'm a storyteller, and so I get to meet lots of different people and learn about them. So that feeds my internal desire of stories, understanding myself, understanding people, and with regards to the business side of things, what I'm learning is the accolades, the festivals, they do help in a negotiation process with distributors. It's it's a very fragmented world today, and you could do two approaches to getting your film out there. You could do a one-stop shop and do an agreement with one company, and hopefully they will do whatever it takes to get your film out there, or you could meet more players and try to carve out territories and be strategic, which is what I'm trying to do now. And all the FaceTime that I have with different people in person and over Zoom has helped leverage me in the negotiating at the negotiating stage, right? So so that I don't get bullied, or I don't get pushed aside by someone saying, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know your target audience. I'm like, I have a sense of who my target audience is after traveling, and how they react, right? I think so that's really helped me a lot. That's what I've discovered. And what you said earlier about self-worth, Paul, it's very you get to be able to champion that with distributors, which is great, because often, yeah, many filmmakers don't see the value of their work. They're like, they feel just happy to take whatever they can get. But
Mhm.
you make good work, you should know that you can ask for more. So, and you
Yes.
have to live, especially today
Yeah.
with inflation.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Well, and you're absolutely right. It's the so many artists, filmmakers, musicians, creators don't know their worth and don't know to ask for it. And that's something that, I've had to teach myself is to ask for it. Ask for the business, ask for the distribution, ask for the money.
Yeah.
And a colleague of mine who we haven't done one in a while, but we do a podcast called The Regional, and it's about music and art and life because he's a musician, and he'll usually do a couple of songs and we talk about stuff. And he said one of the things on one of the podcasts we did together, he talked about how, I come from a family where if you needed money, you just went out and worked for it. You never asked for it.
Yeah.
And to put his new record together, he needed people to he's like, I don't have the 10 grand it's going to cost to fly out to Joel, his studio's out in Halifax. I can't think of his last name. Anyway, so he's like, I got to fly out there. I'm going to be out there for 4 weeks and I'm going to record this new record. I don't have the money to do that. So he started a GoFundMe and he's like, it was amazing. All these people contributed because they're like, we want your art. We want you to be able to create art. And I'm like, it kind of blows my mind that somebody who came from a very shy, quiet background who would never, ever think to ask for money, wouldn't think to ask for help if his house was on fire. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I got it. I can take care of it. He's like, I'm asking for money because I need the money to make this art for you. And people came out in droves. He raised $15,000 out of the 10 that he set. So he put the record out and he gave free copies to a number of people, like the biggest donors, obviously. And they still insisted on paying for it.
Yeah. People are essentially good.
Yeah. And it's just, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole idea of asking for people to subscribe, asking for people to contribute. It's difficult for me. It's a real struggle for me. I know Mr. Beaver Douglas here is, like you said, you're cool with it, but it's difficult for me.
I'll work my corner.
Yeah. Well,
but it was the one thing I was good at as a kid, though. Remember when they used to give you chocolates?
Chocolate bars.
Door. Like I could sell thermometers and calendars.
Yeah.
But they gave me chocolate. I was rolling in it because I love the product.
So it's like funding for a film. I mean, you have to go and ask for the money because let's face it, it's expensive to make a movie.
Yeah. What was that process like for this one, especially for your first? I mean, now it must be a little easier that you have something to, I mean, it's not always easier, but you have like, I have taken a feature film and brought it from beginning to end like this, and it's out there and people kind of sort of like it. So maybe next time you can give me more, please. So, right. But the first, how is that securing all that funding? I mean, I know you've had telefilm helped, but
very arduous. I had to lots of grant writing. So you get into speaking about asking for stuff. I've been writing a lot of grants, trying to get my own work off the ground, my short films, right? And with telefilm, for example, I was rejected at least once before for the same project. We got it the second time.
Okay.
So I'm used to getting rejection, but and I know the idea that you have to put yourself out there in order to get something. You just can't expect to just sit back and wait for things to come. So I thank goodness for Canada and the system that we have to support artists because it has really helped a lot of underrepresented voices be able to learn and tell their own stories. And it's like these agencies like Telefilm, Canada Council for the Arts, or BC Arts Councils, they're publicly funded, but at the same time it's a place where where we can go to as members of society to find help and to get funding, versus like in the US, a lot of it is private. A lot of it's behind closed doors. And so you have to know who to ask. And so it's a bit more, shadowy in that sense. But anyway, going back to funding Golden Delicious, lots of grant writing. And then, when we had enough momentum, which coincidentally happened during the George Floyd movement. I think that social movement kind of changed some perception for people, at these organizations, or with my peers, for example, because a lot of it is peer adjudicated, a lot of the funding. But something happened there, and there were 3 Asian American stories greenlit from BC at Telefilm on the same year.
Wow.
So that's statistically quite high for for those kinds of stories in that region. So that happened in March 2020, and once we had enough momentum, we committed to shooting the project. We decided to shoot before the world opened up, because a lot of our vendors were open to giving us deals, discounts, because they needed the business. And we thought, okay, we're going to go through this. We're going to go through this difficult process of making a film with masks on and everything like that. But it's more feasible as a result. So there was a lot of like give and take negotiation and being strategic with when we were going to be filming and with the money that we had. We didn't have all the funding in place, but we had enough, and I felt confident that we had a great story, that if we were to do an Indiegogo campaign or some sort of crowdsourcing afterwards, it wouldn't be. It might be successful. So it was a big bet, and I think it paid off. We did a crowdsourcing campaign afterwards to help fill in the gap. So yeah, I mean, I could tell you some more stories about filming during COVID, but I don't know if that's necessarily sexy. So for this show.
We're okay with unsexy. Warts and all. What was it like? Because I as an actor, I got to do a couple of things, and stage, of course, stopped completely. We were I got caught up twice. We were 2 weeks before opening a play called Jitters, in which I had the lead, and that's when we had the first shutdown in March of 2020. And then Christmas that year, I was in a play called My Three Angels, which Mr. Grizzly did come and see. But with 1 week left, we had another wave and we got shut down. And voice acting and auditioning through Zoom and all these kind of things became way more popular. And I always found auditioning through Zoom really weird. Because it's weird, because when you go to a regular audition, you have one take, right? You're there, you're live. With Zoom, you get to do it over and over and over and try to send the best one. But then you get that, oh, that wasn't quite right. That was almost like that first scene in the movie. Oh no, my hair wasn't quite right. Or oh, what's that in the background sticking out of my? I need to. There was something in the background that looks like it's coming out of your head right here or something, and you need to move and do it again because you only noticed it. It's like, oh, damn, that was a perfect take. And, so you have the audition process, you had all the safety protocols that needed to be there, because I knew a couple things that I did on camera in between. It's like, okay, you got the mask on. Okay. Filming, take it off, put it in your back pocket. Okay. Cut, put it back on.
Yeah.
It was like, just and everybody's walking around with
we did
sanitizer, and all that kind of stuff. So what's that like? Because I mean, there's already so much going on set, and now you have to have all these protocols, and I'm guessing that there's because of the level of the shoot and all that stuff, you have all these union requirements. And
so we used first of all, I never expected to be directing my first directing my first feature with half my face covered, and
Right.
and it seemed like in every photograph I was like suffocating or like um, screaming at my actor because my eyes were like bulging out, saying, "Do you understand me?" Uh, and of course, yeah, they did understand me, and
Who is this guy? Why is he always mad?
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like you're so there's that aspect, but once you get over that, it's fine. I think the biggest thing was realizing, oh, we weren't going to be scheduling based on efficiency. We were going to be scheduling based on safety.
Right.
And so, that made me aware I got to understand my theme and um, be I guess lack of another word, strategic with the way that I shoot things to have as much layers in it, because I may not be able to go back. Right, we
Right.
won't
Right.
have time. Um, so I paid careful attention to composition and production design to kind of indicate other meaning in each frame.
Right.
But what is so we're scheduling on safety, and the one thing that I was fortunate enough to be able to work with was intimacy coordinators. So at the time
Yes.
they were fairly new, or I didn't have a chance to work with them, and they were great. They helped made the space safe.
Mhm.
They helped expedite communication um, uh, in terms of intimacy and safety, because
Right.
they I told them I needed this to happen. I wanted more skin. I wanted things to be livelier, sexier. Then they would interpret that and talk with the actors, and made sure that they felt safe and heard, because
Right.
um, today you can't just expect two strangers to suddenly passionately kiss each other, especially when they have no idea who they are. I mean, when they've
Right.
never had that relationship, right? So it can be very traumatic. So you have to talk through the language of permission and know what areas can you kiss, and then afterwards you use the camera and lighting to kind of get the best effect with that. That was one thing that I learned from the experience, and I would advocate working with intimacy coordinators to do sex scenes and intimate scenes. So that was great. I think the last thing was learning to trust yourself innately, because things were so uncertain during COVID.
Right.
We lost some big locations because of restrictions, but we
Yeah.
also had faith that something could be replaced. We could find something, because I knew the theme of my story, and then I had a great team that could um, uh, go into the community and find a replacement. So
Okay.
Airbnbs, that was another big thing.
Yeah.
In the past, location scouting was like you visit um, places in person, but then with in COVID, people were relying on Airbnbs and pictures online more, right, to kind of
Right.
ascertain what the space would look like. So that was
Right.
another
Right.
big like shift.
Hmm.
I hadn't
Yeah,
even thought about
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I have an essay of yours here that you wrote for the CBC, which we'll include a link. But there's a passage in here that really, really interested me, and I wanted to ask you about it. So I'll read it out,
Okay.
and then ask you to respond. I tried reconciling my Asian and gay identities. I would learn later that I would be happier if I embraced my two halves rather than keeping them separate. Understanding myself and where I fit in has been vital to my professional development as a director. As my short films traveled, my awareness of LGBT stories grew. I noticed how often LGBT characters ended up alone or in tragedy. Asian gay men were often depicted in the media as passive and melancholic. In these roles, they couldn't be leaders and didn't deserve happiness. Enough exposure to this can limit how we see ourselves and prevent diaspora communities of gay Asian men from finding themselves and each other desirable. I can't let that go by. That's juicy stuff there.
I mean, I think I've said everything that I needed to say with that essay. I don't know if I will. I mean, if I were to comment on that, I'd just be repeating what you just said. So, yeah, that is just stuff that I've learned along the way, and I thought I would share that, especially with how underrepresented communities see themselves when they're often portrayed in less than desirable, less than flattering roles on, on the big screen. And I'm just gonna say I'm a fan of watching things on the big screen. There's something magical with seeing seeing yourself or characters you admire up on the big screen with a group of people. It feels like you are part of something much bigger, and it's more powerful than seeing something on a small screen or on TV in your home alone. Right? You feel like, wow, people can see that. I'm witnessing everyone laugh and cry and champion this character who should be leading, should be deserving of happiness. So anyway, I just wanted to say that there's power, and I advocate going back to the theater. I'm a theater person.
A friend of mine always says, she goes, I love the experience of cinema. And I'm like, yeah, no, the experience of cinema, where you sit there with everybody and you're all sharing the same thing at the same time. You're feeling it differently. Everybody's going to react differently, but it's a communal sense when you're all, you're sitting with a bunch of strangers in a theater, a crowded theater, and you're all going through the same experience. You may feel it different, but it's that communal, the sense of community.
Yeah. I mean, and I had this experience with this film specifically because I was a juror on the film festival. I got to watch this on my computer screen on a screener, right? And then 2-3 days later, I was in the movie theater. The place was pretty much full, if not completely full. And then I got to watch it with everyone, and I was sitting there, I was like, okay, will they react to this like I did? It was like I was just listening to see if it would be the buzz. No, you're right though. It was a completely different experience in the movie theater, because you could just, even if you're not like turning around to look at people, you could feel in the room
the vibe. Yeah, there's an electricity.
The vibe.
Yeah,
there's an electricity there like this. It is a completely different film. It was a great film. It was a great film here alone in this office, because I mean, I'm the one that went to the other two jurors and said, like, we don't actually have a prize for ensemble. But this ensemble is absolutely fantastic. And they said we had leadway. So should we not create one? Because does everybody agree with me? And it was like, the negotiation on that took about 0.4 seconds.
Thank you.
Nice.
Convince the other two that this should be done. So, and then you go and watch it in the theater, and you get that whole other vibe. And the audience really loved it. They were into it. And very early, you can tell when you have that respectful, rapt attention.
Yeah,
that audience had it. I wanted to get back to what you were saying about the essay, because you've already said everything. But I wanted to more take it, given that this was your reality, what you had noticed. How did you go to challenge that and change that with yours?
I'm not sure. Could you rephrase the question? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the trope of the LGBT character that ends up alone or in tragedy, or that Asian gay men, often depicted as passive or melancholic, they did become leaders. I mean, clearly that's not the case in your story,
right?
In this film.
So you're saying, like, how did I challenge it, or why, or
yeah. Well, maybe not why, because I think it's pretty obvious it wasn't there and it's needed, but like.
Well,
when you saw this, like you saw opportunities, I'm guessing when you read the script, it's like, hey, finally I have a chance to do something or put something else out there.
Yeah. Well, how I did that is actually, like, is through casting, intentional casting of certain ethnicities in specific roles. So the role of Alex, who's played by Chris Carson, he's the love interest. He's an openly gay, confident jock, and it was important for me to have him as. Oh, sorry, I just noticed something came up. So it was important for me to have him cast as Asian. So because I didn't want to fall into the trope of like he's a blonde hair, blue eyed kid, and that means to other Asian kids they'll be like, well, I can't be good looking, I can't be desirable because I don't have those traits. So I did my best to find somebody who reflected those qualities, and Chris Carson is mixed race. He's Thai Irish, and
Tyrish.
Tyrish, exactly.
Love it.
And
Love it.
So those little details, even his last name, I made sure that his dad was Asian rather than the other way around, where maybe mom was Asian and dad was white, right? I tried to make sure that that the dad was the Asian person there, and just to continue that line of thinking. But yeah,
because normally it would have been they try and have the diminutive, shy, quiet Asian wife, and right.
Yeah. Exactly. So those little details I infused in the backstory, in the names and stuff like that. It was all intentional, and people who a lot of members from the underrepresented community noticed that, and that's who they often just come up and say thank you, or they share their stories, and I appreciate them noticing. So
get in the face of convention and kick it in the nards, because we gotta, I say this all the time. Representation matters. Now, look, I mean, like, I'm so heavily represented in media everywhere. I get it. So I'm not worried about me, but I want to push the narrative of, because I say representation matters, I genuinely mean it. And I see how it affects people. Like, if you looked at any of the videos on YouTube of young black girls seeing the trailer for the Little Mermaid, and it's Halle Bailey, and they're like, Mom, she's black like me. I'm like, oh, dude, I get goosebumps just thinking about that. It's like they finally see themselves reflected on the big screen. And I think that is so important, because it lets you know that you count, and we care, and we want you to be a part of this community. So representation truly matters. And I like that you just flipped the convention on its head. No, the father's going to be the Asian and the mom will be white, because it's super common, actually. It's super common, but it's rarely ever reflected in films, TV. You just never see it, but it's super common. And I'll tell you why. Every young woman I've met lately is in love with BTS. Right. And I mean, look, I'm not gay, but damn, that's a good looking group of fellas. I mean, come on, like, holy crap, right? So suddenly you've got millions of white women around the world who maybe have developed a fascination. I don't know. I don't want to get into the weeds on that one. You know what I mean? Like, there's that whole sort of Asian fetish that a lot of white men have with Asian women, and that's not where I'm going with this. But it's like the representation has changed the narrative, and it's changed the way people see things, is what I'm trying to say.
It removes a barrier.
Oh yeah,
doesn't it? I mean, it just seems to me that if, for example, if I think about the era in which I grew up in versus the era that my parents grew up in. My mother, both my parents are mixed race, but my mother presents as white, my father presents as black. My mother married a black man in the 60s.
Yeah.
That didn't go over well with a lot of people. Right? Meanwhile, I went to school, and I can't imagine a world without people of different sizes and shapes and colors and genders and fluidities around me. These were the people I went to school with. My class, when I went to school, looked very different than the classmates of my parents when they went to school.
Oh, yeah.
When I got to high school, we had 5,000 Somali families had arrived in Ottawa because of the war. We had Somalians, we had Ethiopians, we had Lebanese, we had Haitians, we had people from all over. We had people from 43 different countries in my school.
Well, and let's not forget 1979. What was it? 2,000 families were taken into Ottawa. Vietnamese, the boat people, right? And Ottawa was, I think, the biggest resettlement of the refugees. And we have a massive Vietnamese community here in Ottawa. And I've met a number of people who were infants when their parents came here, and they're like, we were taken in by so many kind families that helped us out when we first got here. So, we're going to stay in this city forever because we have the lives we have because people were kind to us. I'm like, well, good. Let's make sure we keep pushing that kindness forward.
But now we have a situation where, if I had a 12-year-old son or daughter with the internet and being connected around the world, she might have more common with a young man living in India than she has with someone living up one province down. Because let's say they're both into anime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got a Canadian, you got someone from India, like this, we're really both into anime, and they're connecting online. And it's just, the distance isn't that great anymore in terms of meeting people. So I assume that in the future, there's going to be even more intermingling.
Well, and I would also think
there's going to be less barriers in terms of what people look like to say, oh, well, that's not attractive or this is attractive. Because I remember going through that when I came out. Just when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, you'd look at the back of gay newspapers or gay magazines, and it was always the same thing. It's tall, white, blonde, blue-eyed, hairless, buff, and if they were showing more than that, gifted down below. And I'm looking at all of this, and it's like I'm batting 0 for 6 or 7 here.
So you weren't even getting representation in your own community.
I'm not white. I'm not blonde. I'm definitely not hairless. I never saw myself.
Yeah.
So I just assumed I was not attractive. So I relied on my wit and my personality and my conversation and my kindness in order to get dates. But no, seriously, I never saw myself.
Well, that hits heavy for me because, I see myself everywhere I can look. So I don't know what it's like to live in a world without representation. I haven't got a clue. I haven't. I mean, look, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm 55 in a couple of weeks. I've got a 6-pack. I'm white, cis, het, Anglo. My surname is Atkinson. It's like as English.
Whoops. Oh no. He froze. Okay, hopefully he will be able to come back because I wanted to show the clip and he's the one who has the control of the clip. I wanted to ask before we get to that, because he might have to drop in and come back. Golden Delicious, the title. I think of apples. I do not see one apple in the film. No, I know it's the name of the restaurant, the parents. But how did that get chosen as a title? Because the title doesn't really tell you anything, which is kind of interesting. It was like Die Hard. You kind of know what you're going to be expecting. Armageddon. Just Golden Delicious. So why that title?
That title is actually from Gorman Lee, and it's referring to temptation. The apple, in the Garden of Eden, right? So originally it was meant, it was alluding to temptation, and then I interpret it as dreams, that and and it was an appropriate title for the restaurant to have, because it was sort of ephemeral, and it had so many different meanings for people, that restaurant. But yeah, originally it was it was temptation. So
Okay. Yeah, no,
um,
because
I,
it's all over the movie.
yeah, yeah.
Temptation is all over that movie.
Yeah, so and I didn't want to actually, one of the earlier titles was called Golden Child, and I thought that was a bit too it was it didn't
Obvious.
really, too, it was too obvious, but it was also it wasn't, it didn't conjure up any sort of feeling. And I think Golden Delicious
No.
conjures up um a different interpretation, like the apple, like temptation, like something that we eat that disappears, and we hope to get it back. And our first experiences with someone, it can be very magical, and something that we desire to want to extend for a long period of time, right? Sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it works better than the Golden Child, because the Golden Child, I think, probably would have put more emphasis on the father-son relationship with the whole basketball and wanting to continue the legacy, which was a narrative of the story, but definitely not the central plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's Paul doing? Is he coming back?
I hope so. He probably has to reboot, would probably be my guess. There he is.
Okay. Now I'm in the middle.
Yes. It's probably where we should have put you to start with. Actually, you're the guest. I've noticed that we have a special in the chat. If Kit's noticed a new name, Bitchin' Boutique. That's Pitney and Amelia's Bitchin' Boutique, which is a podcast that's friends of ours from the United States that also has gay themes and talks about it. So their theme is "We're awful, but we're right." So, or we may be awful, but we're right. So, welcome. I'm hoping. I'm not sure if it's Amelia or Pitney or both of you, but welcome. I think this is the first time you've joined us in the morning. Mr. Grizzly, do we have the clip ready? Oh, can't hear you, sir. Okay, but we'll be able to hear the clip. The audio will come. For the first time ever on the True North Eager Beaver, Mr. Grizzly, please roll the clip. Oh, moment delayed. Joy delayed. Joy delayed. I'm gonna get 2 marshmallows out of this.
I can't believe you do this live every day. Wow, this is great.
It's
Okay, yes. Okay, brochures.
And
I promise.
the other thing.
Yeah, and the other thing. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, shit. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
It's my bad.
You live across the alley, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving in on Labor Day, huh?
Yeah, not by choice, believe me.
Dude, you look lost.
I am.
You are. You are.
Yeah. Did I see that? Yeah.
Oof, Mr. Roberts? That's brutal. Trust me. Find a bus, about to go. Follow me. No, this way.
I just went that way.
Come on.
Bit of a meet cute there. Bit of a meet cute. Love the cinematography and the lighting in that scene as well. It's like the looking up angles. Brilliant.
Yep. And what's really interesting about that scene is because we got to see that trailer, right? And there's that little moment where that recognition, and in that trailer, it looks like sparks flied like this, and then you see the movie, and it's like, you're the guy that lives across the street, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute, okay, right? Jason, we understand that your time is limited, and you've been very generous. So please, well, thank you. number one. I just wondered if you had anything else that you would like to add, and if not, well, what's your pitch? Because your movie is on June 3rd, I believe, at Inside Out, and there's 2 screenings, I believe, right? There's a
there's the main screening. So there's
Yeah.
the main screening on June 3rd at 11:45, and there's also a relaxed screening happening almost concurrently with that. It's I think like 10 or 15 minutes delayed, and the whole point of the
Yes.
concurrent screening is so that those members of the audience who may be uncomfortable with large crowds can still attend, and
brilliant.
it's very spaced out. Inside Out has been fantastic with advocating accessibility. A lot of the screenings have open captions, so
Okay.
those who may have hard of hearing can actually understand what's going on as well if they can't hear. And open captioning is different than subtitles in the sense that you get to also see descriptions of things, of actions and music as well. So so that's happening tomorrow at the TIFF Bell Lightbox here in Toronto. If you're in the neighborhood, and then it's screening on June 6th in Vancouver at the Cinematheque as well. If you at around 7:00, if you are there, and I'll be there as well. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Is there any?
And if there are kids that are not, sorry, go ahead, Mr.
I was going to say any opportunity. Like, I mean, it's Pride Month, but Pride in Ottawa isn't really celebrated until August, right? So it's Pride Month, sure, totally. But in August is when all the big Pride festivities take place in Ottawa. Any chance you could come around for a screening then?
I would be open. I would be open to that. I'd have to talk to some people, but I was going to say in Vancouver, Pride is also celebrated in August as well. So you're not alone.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, yeah. So yeah, we celebrate during the warm, hot months. I think it's just meant to stagger all the Pride celebrations, so it's not happening in June.
Right.
Well, Ottawa's different though, and the reason it's celebrated in August is because of, what was it, 1971, when they had a Universal Declaration of Human Rights that observed gay rights as well. Right around the corner over on Bank and Somerset, there is a poster a mural, thank you, and it's written on the wall, and it's the exact words that were stated at the time, and it was about standing up for rights. When at the time, and it had only recently been made legal to be gay, which when you think about that, it's like, what? It's hard to believe that was something that happened in my lifetime, because I was born in 1968. That was a thing when I was a baby. I'm so old. I've been around since before man walked on the moon. But go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The Ottawa Inside Out Film Festival is October 6th to 8th. So it's actually after Pride.
Okay, we actually screened there last year. The Ottawa Inside Out. Yeah. So we already did screen at the festival, and I believe it was sponsored by it was the Gay Ottawa Volleyball League.
Yes.
So
very active.
Yeah,
one of the oldest gay sports leagues in Ottawa, along with the Rito Speedos, is the volleyball league.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the screening tomorrow is almost like a repeat screening. It's a festival favorite. That's how the programmers have classified this, because it's screened back in Ottawa, but only to the Ottawa region, and now it's here for the Toronto crowd.
Okay.
So
cool. For our kids who are not in Toronto or in Vancouver who might like to see it, is there any way that they are able to find it? Is it on any streaming service at the moment?
It's currently not on any streaming service, but I believe we are going to be releasing it in theaters sometime in August. So that's why wide release, but I can't. I'm not a distributor, so I don't want to give too much away. So But if you were to go to our website, goldendeliciousfilm.com, or follow us on Facebook or Instagram, which we are very active in, we can announce that soon. But right now, we're trying to find the right date in that time frame to do a wide release. It's competitive. There's a lot of great queer films out there, and we just wanted to make sure that we're able to land. We're able to stick to that landing. So in August, but we're thinking of August for a theatrical release, and potentially in October for some sort of streaming. So.
All right, we'll keep our eyes peeled and we'll let the kids know about that because, this is a movie that definitely deserves to be seen. Jason, thank you so much for coming to the Beaver Lodge. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Douglas Paul, again
for
for all your time and
thank you
and your stamina in all this. So.
You made it quite easy, actually. I didn't have to write a script today, which is kind of nice. So thank you for that. Kids, Jason Karman, director of Inside Out and many short films. Please check out his IMDb if you have the chance. If you're in Toronto, please check out his film Golden Delicious at Inside Out. If you're in Vancouver, please check out his film. I can't remember where you said it would be again.
It's playing at the Cinematheque as part of the Korean Film Festival, Canada, but it's at Cinematheque Tuesday, June 6th at 7:00. So that's downtown Vancouver. Yeah.
Right.
And then it's also actually playing at Queer North at the Sudbury Cinema Theater. June. I should know. I believe it is June 18th. If you Google Queer North Film Festival Sudbury, you should be able to locate the exact time. But it's our Northern Ontario premiere later on in June. So.
Oh, that is wonderful!
Outstanding.
Just hopefully be able to find it. You know what? When we do the Easter eggs, we'll share the time for that on the show at the end of the show to make sure everybody gets it. All right. Thank you very much. Wishing you all the best for the screening. Hope everybody in the theater loves it as much as I did.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it.
All right. Have fun with it.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
How was that?
That was awesome.
Right?
That was awesome. Yeah. No, that was great.
He's so cool too, right?
Oh, yeah. Such a chill dude. I like that.
I know, right? Because like my image of directors, it would be like, everything's going wrong.
Yeah, I've worked with a few directors, and sometimes they can be tyrants. But I find most of the directors I've fortunately worked with in Canada, and there haven't been a ton, but they're pretty chill, because it's like you said, it's different making a film in this country. We have a different system and a setup to get financing and funding, and you have to go and ask for the money. So it can be, I think, a very humbling experience. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my interpretation thereof. And I think being humbled by the industry makes you probably a little bit more of a chill guy,
I would hope so. But you never know. You just never know.
You never know.
All right. I don't know if you want to do any other things today, Mr. Grizzly, or just leave it at that.
Nah, let's leave it at that. Yesterday was a really heavy, angry day for me, and I don't want to be that guy today. I'm not saying that there are going to be days when I'm going to be angry. You know that, because I see the injustice and I see the terrible things that happen, and I have to shout out about it, because if I don't, who will? And I'm in a unique place of privilege where I can shout, and I will. But today I just wanted to be lighthearted and happy, and let's go into Friday and this weekend feeling good about ourselves, right?
All right. I see that at the Queer North Film Festival, based on what I see on the schedule, Golden Delicious will be presented on Saturday, the 17th of June at 3:15 p.m. Okay. So if you're in Sudbury, please take the time to check that out. Okay. I believe then we have a show, Mr. Grizzly.
We do.
All right. I will then scroll down to the credits because we did have some news that we could have said, but I think we should just leave it at this, and we'll maybe just present it. We'll label it as an interview. The next one in our interview series. I think that would be great. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, kids, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver podcast, or the True North Eager Beaver interview project. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps know about us. And because democracy is something that you do, remember our letter writing campaigns, either to let your senators and MPs know that you would like our foreign media ownership laws changed, or whether or not you just want to let them know that you were really not impressed with what the conservatives are doing in terms of demonization and character assassination and intimidation campaigns. You know what to do. Member of Parliament, and send it to the House of Commons and add the postal code, and you don't need a stamp, and that's all you need to do to let your feelings be known. We have some new kits as well that have joined us on the chat. I see a Kit Breadback, who that's a name I don't believe I've seen before, so welcome to the Beaver Lodge. It's very nice to have you here. And there were a couple of others I saw during the chat. Of course, Bitchin' Boutique, as we mentioned, that's the first time. Good friends of ours from Twitter. And there was somebody else I saw. I can't remember. But, oh well. And Kit Saucy has news saying that she will be returning home today, which is very, very, very good. I'm glad that Mama and baby are doing well. Osiris is going to be so loved. So loved. That kid doesn't know how lucky he is. And we have Kit Janet Snell Grove here on our chats. So welcome to you as well. I believe that might be a name that we have seen before, but not as often as we would like, because you are always welcome. If you like this podcast, you can find us on the Crier Media Network, as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. Stars and reviews are appreciated. Please be generous. Little subliminal suggestion as to how many. But of course, we're happy with all of them that we get. Yes, we are. We love to hear from you. Reach us on our Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, on our Twitter feed at True Eager, or by email at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And you could, I was going to say .ca there, and you could subscribe via our pod page. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you do that, we will come right to you the second that we have something fresh off the bandwidth. We can't do this without you or your kind and generous support. So if you feel that we've done a particularly good show, if you've enjoyed the fact that we are bringing quality guests, well, if you just bring your cell phone to that little squiggly QR code that Mr. Grizzly will put up close to his head, that will bring you to our coffee page. And if you don't have the ability to do that, then you can go there manually with coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters, and that will bring you to our emergency hydration fund, where we use to hire staff like Guinness and hot chocolate and Caesar and coffee. They're all very, very wonderful quality people, and they help us get our work done. Great staff. Have a little trouble keeping them around.
Yeah, they don't stick around very long.
They go walk about a little bit, but
someday I'm going to own a beer instead of just renting it for an hour or so. Of course, that'll be the last thing I ever do, right? To own a beer, you have to drink it and then drop dead. Just a rental otherwise.
There we go. Toronto's vouching. Caesar's a great guy.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Absolutely.
I like Caesar.
And Kit Saucy is asking us, is Monday the start of Crazy Mustache Week, Mr. Grizzly?
Yes. And I meant to get stuff done last night to post. What I'll do, sir, is I'm going to send you some things so we can put it on the Facebook page and the True Eager Twitter. I'm going to have it on my Twitter and my Facebook. And I'm sending it out to work colleagues. And the bidding will be, so it's basically Monday I'm going to shave and have mutt like mutton chop sideburns and then a goatee. And that's going to be, bidding starts at 100. And you can go up from there, but the minimum bid is 100. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to trim the mutton chops down to have like a 5 o'clock shadow mutton chops, and I'm gonna cut a little strip in the middle, so it'll be like, and then a bigger handlebar, and then on Friday it's the full Salvador Dali.
Woohoo! Wow.
So we're the goal. Here's the goal. We would like to try and raise $1,000 if we could for Cornerstone Housing for Women. That's the goal. If we can, great. If not, that's fine too. You know, I understand. Look, we're all going through tough times right now financially because the inflation and, you know, more demands on us than ever before. So, you know, if you can't donate, don't get too upset. It's not. I'm not pushing anybody to do this.
No.
I did this so that we could try and raise a little bit of money, and hopefully we can. And if you know, whatever we raise is better than nothing.
Precisely.
The goal is 1,000. If we can do more, great. And if we do less, that's fine too. It's still money that we're bringing in and donating. Oh, and the way the donations will work is you will have a direct link to Cornerstone. We don't see the money. You give the money directly to them. Send us the email back receipt so that we will know that you did indeed make the donation. That's all we ask.
Okay, perfect. Oh, we have a Kit Toronto Dan that says, I got 50 on Thursday for you.
Oh, cool.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so very much. All right. Kits from the Beaver Lodge. This is your eager beaver saying, until next time, dear kids, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. I do not know if you have additional words of wisdom, Mr. Grizzly.
No, I think I'm wisdomed out for the time being.
He is all tapped out of wisdom, kids. You drained them.
I need a refill. I'll refill later at the pub.
All right. Mr. Grizzly, please then roll them credits.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
There we go. And we have a couple more updates here. We have Kit Saucy that confirmed that she will be going home, but yeah, that the fire is being held at bay, so that's good, hopefully. And the kids seem to enjoy the interview. We have thank you, Jason. Great interview from Kit Saucy. Thanks for coming, Jason, from Kit Elaine. Thanks, Jason, from Kit Jen. That was great. Kit Linda, Toronto. Dan says, great interview. Kit BC and Bio, that was excellent. Kit Saucy, again, you guys are nailing the guests. No, we don't nail the guests to get them to come. They agree to come on their own. But always great. God, sorry, I had to. You set me up. You set me. But the kids seem to enjoy the interview, so yeah. And of course, I thank you, of course, to Jason, Karman, friend of the Beaver Lodge, for coming over and telling us about his movie. Absolutely. All right, kids.
Click that little button right there and subscribe. That would be great. And
yeah.
Share this with as many people as you can. My apologies today. We've had a brownout in the building. That's why I got kicked out of the stream earlier. Yeah, it's like I was sitting here and I went, everything just flashed. My board went off. Everything went offline. I looked over and the modem was flashing, and it just did it again a few seconds ago. That's what happened. Just as we were coming out of the credits, it did it again. So I don't know if there's something going on in the building, if it's affected by heat or what the case is. But either way, yeah.
All right. Well, then let's get out while we can.
Yeah, it's probably for the best, I think.
See you, kids.
Bye.